All right, we're back for session number 2 today. We have got 11 sessions going on here with the DJ and TV mini sessions today, going from 2 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m. Eastern. A long day for you guys to hang out with us, and we appreciate you hanging out with us. We're getting ready for our next group. We've got Dan Carpenter, and we're getting the office set up here for a live interview. This will be our first live one today. We've got a few live ones coming up, and they're going to continue. I think the last hour is completely live today. A few of the hours are going to be live today. It's got some really cool stuff. If you missed the first session, you can go back to djntv.com/mini sessions, and on there is the links, all the YouTube links for today's video. So if you have to leave for a few hours, you can come back and you can catch that. If you can't catch them all today and you're watching the end of the day, hey, they're all on that page and they're going to stay there so you can have access to those videos from today. On the other side, you're going to see that spot about the donating. So read through that. It's all pretty self-explanatory, and you understand what we're doing, and such as this is kind of like a telethon, I guess you could kind of call it. Yeah, something like that. So we need to keep going because we've got a lot of content we're going to be doing today. So our next one is Dan Carpenter, which of course a lot of you know as the guy who writes the part-time DJ thing, and he also is with us on Monday night. So we'll be back with Dan in just a second.
So my mini session is going to be basically about bridal shows. It's coming up on bridal show season. We're really kicking off a lot of these busy times. In fact, I had to pre-record this because I'm at a bridal show right now and trying to actually just about cleaning up from mine. So whether you've been thinking about this for a little while or whether you're watching it wondering if you should or not, I really just have kind of a couple things that I really want to pinpoint and really think you should consider. First off, I want to let you know that bridal shows are effective. I mean, if they weren't, why would people keep doing them? I know a lot of friends of mine who actually do show upon show upon show upon show, and it's because they get a lot of return for it, and it makes a lot of sense to them. I know a lot of people who do multi-ops, and as a result, the show gives them a chance to really showcase a lot of their DJs all at one time. So it's a great opportunity for you really to kind of reach out and meet people where they are. Now, with that being said, I can also say that bridal shows are not effective. That is if you go in unprepared. A lot of people, unfortunately, have this idea that when they go to the show, all they have to do is show up and people are going to come flocking to them and want to hire them right away. And what we quickly find out is that's just not the case. We may wish that would be the case, but what we quickly find out is that we have to do a little bit of work. You have to be prepared for the show, and if you are, then it's going to be quite effective. I encourage you to know your show. I mean, what stats do they have on past brides? Are the people looking for this current year, or are they doing farther out? I mean, if you're booked for the year, but the couples are mainly a year away, mainly for this year, it probably is not going to be the best return of investment for you. But if they're looking for farther out and you've got holes in those, that'd be a good opportunity for you to do the show and check things out. How many vendors are going to be there? Maybe they do a lot of people all at once, and that's maybe not a bad idea. So as a result, they get a big crowd coming in. Maybe they don't get quite as many, and it's this more smaller, intimate show. But I've also seen shows where they only have like 20 wedding vendors there at the show, and 6 of them end up being DJs. And I don't know about you, but that seems like there's a lot of DJs for not a lot of companies. And so unless you just happen to have a lot of people that are looking for DJs, it could feel like it's a bit of a waste of time and a waste of money. Then again, maybe you just have a killer way of standing out among the crowd. And if that's the case, then in the same respect, it still might be worth it to you, even though the couple or the client might be a little bit on overload from so many DJs. Now, one other thing I want you to know your show, is that you need to know who are they bringing in? Who are these clientele? For example, if you fancy yourself to be more of a high-end DJ and they're bringing in a lot of these people that are just looking for the latest, greatest deal and not really looking for what you can do for them, and you really don't want to go educating them in any way, shape, or form, then again, it's probably not going to be the show for you. But if you find out that, listen, I'm that middle of the road DJ, I'm breaking into the market, I'm trying to do a little bit better, then maybe it is going to be a good one for you. For example, the show that I'm doing actually is an hour and a half from where I live. It's a new area for me. I really want to break into the area. I'm not known there, have never done a wedding up in that area. And I called and inquired about the show and found out, hey, we've got an opening. We limit the number of DJs that we have. And yeah, they're looking for some for this year, but there's also quite a fair amount that are going to be looking for next year. So it's going to be a wide array. Not everybody's going to be who I'm looking for, but the good thing is that there's probably going to be a fair amount of people that are. Now, I want to give you some tips for the show. These are not necessarily tips that I know inside and out, but I would definitely agree with each of these statements that I found. These are ones that either people have passed on to me or in the same respect, I have experienced and would like to pass along to you. The very first one is to network. This show isn't just about your possible couples that you're going to be able to meet. It's also about meeting other vendors and making a lot of connections. I'll be honest with you, some of my best recommendations, some of my best referrals come from vendors that I keep in touch with through the bridal shows. It's like we're our own little family. Sometimes we work together, sometimes we don't, but the key element is when we get together at these bridal shows, we make sure we're passing along the information and we connect. And it's not just all about business. It's finding out what's happened in their life. It's finding out what's been going on with them for the past couple months. Facebook helps because obviously we keep in touch that way as well. But this is a face-to-face, so it makes it a little bit more intimate, a little bit better in that aspect as well. Now, next thing is going to be about your booth. You have to make sure that your booth is inviting to brides. Brides tend to call the shots in most of the wedding decisions, or at least have a very strong choice in their choices. And so you have to make sure that your area is welcoming to them. Along the same lines, I'm going to talk about this next one here. To gear or not to gear? That is the big question. And personally, I've done both. I've taken full setups and I've taken little to nothing for gear. Taking everything, I would definitely not recommend. It cluttered things up for me. It also made me one of the last ones out of the show. And after it was over and after you're done talking to everybody, you're just worn out. And so to tear down, it's rough. You're worn out from talking to so many people. Add in that most brides, when you ask them, what do they care about? Do they care about seeing the gear? They really don't. As long as they know it's not going to hinder what they're viewing for their event, it's not really one of the things that's going to be a major selling or a major breaking point for them. On the flip side, having no gear really just sets you up to be asked a dozen times, so what is it that you do? I'll be honest with you, I've taken TVs and posted them and not taken really any other gear, and people would walk by, they see the videos and they go, oh, you're a videographer. Or they would see some pictures up on the slideshows and they're like, oh, you're a photographer. And you have to go, no, I'm an entertainment company. Right there. See, DC Entertainment. Oh, okay. And then it's like you confused them. And so they're lost for a second. They really don't know what to do. And it really kind of is a weird thing. What I've done a bunch of different times is really just to take one simple piece of equipment. I take a speaker. It's not hooked up. It's not playing anything. It's on a tripod. It's scrimmed. It looks pretty. Sometimes I uplight it depending upon the banquet hall or the venue that I'm at for this bridal show. But what ends up happening is when they come up, they see the speaker. They know I'm a DJ or at least an entertainment company. And so it switches that mentality. It's just a little bit. It's not anything real intrusive. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to set up or tear down. And yet it really kind of avoids that obnoxious or that weird question that you just keep getting asked over and over and over again. Now, the next thing I would say is you got to be prepared to talk. You will see a lot of couples in a very short amount of time. You're going to be talking a lot. Bring water. Bring lots and lots of water, but don't guzzle it. Just sip at it. It's going to keep your voice moist. It's going to help you be able to talk a little bit more. It's going to be able to keep you going a little bit longer. And you just have to be able to perform well. And doing so, that's going to be the key, is to make sure you make sure your voice is very moist. I'm also going to encourage you to bring breath mints. Your breath is going to stink just from talking. You may not have eaten anything. You may not have drinking anything other than the water, but without fail, your breath will smell just from talking. So bring some mints. It's going to freshen it up, but also sucking on the mint is going to keep that voice moist as well. It's going to keep that saliva going down so it's nice and easy for you. Bring another person. This could be one of your employees that could help talk to the overflow, or even better yet, a former bride. Women seem to be more willing to talk to former brides, and so having one in your booth that can rave about you firsthand is going to be a great way to really hook in with your potential clients. Be careful though. You want to make sure you pick someone that's fun and outgoing. Don't just throw it out to any bride, and if she's not going to be a perfect match for you, it's not going to be a great contact. Here's one of the other things. Pick a bride that is your ideal client. That's right. Pick one of your former brides that you want to emulate to the people that are coming into the show, because when brides that are like them see them, or brides that would look up to them see them, they're going to be like, I want to be there. I want to have that same experience, because they can kind of picture that. So it's going to be very, very good if you can have somebody that's fun, outgoing, and again, matches that ideal client that you've had from the past. Here's another big thing. Make sure you have a plan going in. What do you want to get out of the show? Is it bookings? While some can have success booking people at the show, you're going to spend a lot of time focused on maybe just a couple people in front of you. Others need to focus on getting appointments, and that's really where I would spend a lot of time. Setting up an opportunity to talk with them again, getting in front of them, having their undivided attention, not when they're on the overload from the show, can give you an opportunity to really showcase what makes you different than all the other people that they may be talking to that day. Also, if other people are really pushing for them to book at the show, it's going to feel like a car salesman type of mentality. When you say, hey, listen, I just want to have a conversation with you. I really don't care, what you're feeling right now, because I know you're going to be really stressed out, and I respect that. So why don't we take a few extra moments, sit down, I'll buy you a cup of coffee, and we can just relax and talk about your wedding and what you want, and see if we're a good fit for each other. Notice how we just focused on just having that relaxed mentality, and as a result, they're going to relax and maybe have a better conversation as a result. Now, after the show, this becomes a very, very key element. You got to make sure you're following up. You're spending a lot of money to go to these shows. So what's your plan for following up with the couples? The ones that didn't book with you, but you have their date open. You need to create a plan before the show on how you're going to follow up, and to put it into practice immediately. As soon as you get the attendees list from your show, start calling. Yes, I said calling. Many wedding vendors will simply just email. Think of how you will stand out just by making that phone call. You can even call, and if you give voicemail, mention that you'll be sending them something through email, so they should be on the lookout for it. They're less likely to just click that delete button just because they might think it's junk mail. By letting them know you're going to send them something, it encourages them to be on the lookout for them. Maybe even sending something through the mail. So little times we actually get things in the actual physical handoff snail mail, that as a result, doing so will make you stand out even a little bit more. There's a ton of more opportunities. There are a lot of more tips and things out there. You can Google it. You can check out some of these. But hopefully this will get you a little bit prepared for the show that you have coming up. I know it did for me. And a lot of time you just have those refreshers before you get into the show as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the mini sessions. And my name is Dan Carpenter. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.
Okay, for our next segment, we got to shut that off so we're not hearing ourselves. We're going to be talking a little bit about something that Lori and I talked a bit about last time she was on. For those of you who do not know, this is Lori Young. She is the other half of me and the other side of the Disc Jockey News. Lori, we talked a little bit about the last time about some things you were involved with the DJ industry, and I wanted to have you talk a little bit about what it was like when you were booking shows for me and how that experience went, because you were able to book my show much easier and for much more money than I was able to. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit. How was that experience like?
One of the things as a DJ company is that you need to somehow figure out how to differentiate yourself from your competition down the street. Because when a bride or any client, could be a corporate party or anything like that, when they're comparing a DJ to a DJ, they're looking for someone that, they know that the DJ has a wide range of music and things. And so they're geared for price. So when they're calling, they're asking, how much is it for a 4-hour show? And unless you give them something different than the DJ down the road, they're strictly going by price. And so you need to figure out what differentiates you, what you're able to bring to their special occasion or their special event that offsets you from a regular DJ. And one of the things that we had actually started doing was a few years back, we did the audio drops over the special dances, like the first dance, the father-daughter, the mother-son dance. And we were able to have the couples come to the studio and actually record. And when I was selling the shows like that, when you're on the phone with your client, it's always best to completely be able to remove yourself from whatever you're doing. So if you're doing taxes or you've got a bad day or you're sick, you need to be able to somehow remove yourself so you're in the moment with who your client is, so you can actually talk and feel them out what they're looking for. You can listen better that way than when you got all these things going on. But I found out from some of my clients with talking with them is that especially when you have a daughter who's very close to her father, or I've had some cases where the son was really close to his mom. And when we would do the audio drops over their special dances, when I was communicating that with the client, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was even possible. And so I then had them, because I sold them on emotion, because they knew that all these things that they wanted to always share with their mom or with their dad was something that they could never really share in person because they would get choked up. And here they had the chance to do it on their wedding day, to be able to come to the office, record their message. They would write out, Dad, I love you, all these things, or Mom, you were very important to me growing up. And they were able to come to the office, pre-record that, and then John was able to drop that over their special song. So normally a lot of weddings, when is the special dance, when you're bringing the mother-son dance out on the, as far as bringing them out onto the dance floor, a lot of times that would be a cue for the guests to say, oh, I'm going to run to the bathroom quick, or I'm going to go to the bar because I've got this time where it doesn't really relate to me. But all of a sudden, when they hear the bride or the groom all of a sudden be on the microphone, which they're really not, but it sounds like they're coming over the microphone live, it puts everyone, they kind of like freeze. And they pay attention to what's going on the dance floor. And I guess from being a spouse, you kind of know what you're, in this case, what my husband's capable of doing. And being able to share that, because I saw some of the finished product with the photo montage and the audio drops and things, and I don't even know the couple, and it would make me choke up. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is so touching. And if it makes me choke up, what's it going to do with all the guests that actually know the bride or the groom? And so basically, just by sharing that, finding out what their needs are, and explaining to them the things that you can do for them for their day, it was basically a closed deal at that point, because they weren't looking for another DJ once they found that, and that's what they wanted. And it was basically setting up a time for them to come to the studio and do their recording, and it worked out well. But I also knew what offset John's show versus the DJ show down the road, and that makes a huge difference. And plus, when you believe in something that you're selling, usually you can do a really good sales with that.
Now, we discussed, of course, a lot of the things that I was doing that kind of made what I did unique in this vicinity. Now, if I would try to sell that, there's times where I'm talking to brides and such, and they respond differently to me talking about the same concepts as they would to you. And I'm not sure if it's that third party thing, but
compassion.
I don't have any compassion. I have no empathy for the brides, I suppose, is what you're trying to say.
Well, and I think it's easier because for someone trying to sell their own show, you don't know, as far as on the other end, if they're like, oh, they're just making crap up, that they, because sometimes people will exaggerate a little bit of what they can do and what they can deliver. And so then you're kind of taking their word for it. Are they really going to follow through with what they said versus having someone on the outside sharing that and sharing what we've seen, and all of a sudden it's kind of a sold product that they can see that. And plus, I think at the time you had some videos too that were off where the people that were really interested in that type of show could actually go and view some of the things that we have done. It wasn't just out there but it was more for those that were really looking for that type of show.
Yeah, we had some hidden links that we could share once we knew we had someone who was a prospect instead of a suspect, which there was a lot of that in the time. What was your feeling when you were talking to brides, specifically less than grooms, but when you were talking to brides coming from a female perspective? Do you think it was easier for you to connect with them, or do you think it doesn't matter so much?
A lot of it, I think the brides it might have hit more home too, because of the fact that brides tend to dream big, I guess, with their weddings. They want to have that perfect day where, and I shouldn't say that because I've seen it with guys too, because case in point, when I talked to the groom that time with the mother-son dance, and I guess when you're communicating with them, you can kind of feel it out if they're actually, if they're wanting to share and that they're open with what they're looking for in a day, usually can set the tone as far as if they're diehard saying, no, I want to know price. Well, sometimes it could be your local competition down the road calling to find out how much you charge, because that's all they care about. They have no other information to share with you about their day because they don't.
They're looking for
they're looking
pricing. Yeah.
Correct. And then of course when you're communicating with the couple or brides, and a lot of times it was brides that would share some of the wedding experiences that they had been to, some of the dances where there was dead time in between every song, or that there was profanity and vulgar in music, that when the dance started at 8:00 that they were sending the flower girl and stuff home because it was no longer a family-friendly event. It became a adult-only type of thing. So you're sending most of your guests away at that point.
They call, they ask price, and you're talking about a lot of more in-depth conversation. How did you move them off that? Okay, what's the price? How did you move them?
A lot of it is trying to find out what they're looking for in a day, and finding out, because when at first you get the impression that they're, the DJ is a DJ type of thing, and it's like, well, it's like comparing apples to oranges to some extent. If you got a bowl of apples, that's your traditional, but you want something that's a little out of the ordinary, finding out a little bit more of what you have to offer, what they're looking for, matching up, because there's so much stuff out there nowadays that, especially with the different education and networking, and finding the gifts that you're capable of doing for your whether if it's, again, corporate, wedding, party, finding out what your gifts are, how you can specialize to your events with using the gifts you have. Don't try copying other DJs, but things that come natural for you and things that you can bring out onto the table for them that really offsets, again, what you do for them versus what the competition. And if you know a little bit about some of your competition down the road, obviously that's always good knowledge to have, whether you've been to a wedding or you've seen them at a local, well, I shouldn't say that. A bar doesn't really give you an actual feeling of how the DJ is, unless they have dead sound between the songs and such. But you can't really compare with that, because a bar show is a lot tougher than doing a wedding, because a wedding, you've got the people from the start and you're dealing with them, and the behavior and the attitude is a lot different at a wedding versus the bar or being out. You've got the different level of respect and such. So
I think that's knowing a little bit about what others are doing in the market is definitely a valuable thing. But even if you don't know, I think your point of just knowing what you can bring uniquely to the clients is a huge spot, or a huge part. is then you have something that you can talk about and you can sell. And at moving them off that and finding out what they're wanting and such is really, that's the key or the trick. And Mitch talks about this in a lot of our sessions, is how do we move them from that to the point where now we can ask questions as you've done. And what kind of things do you like? What have you seen that and if this situation is something we've seen before, is that, however a person's carrying on a conversation, because there's just so many variables in that.
And getting them to share with you some of the weddings that they've been invited to and some of the things that they didn't like or they liked about certain things that happened throughout the show is kind of nice. And also keep your ears open. If you hear that you got someone that was just at a wedding and it might be a DJ company you've never heard of before, ask questions. Don't set your ego like, oh, they didn't hire me or that type of thing. But ask questions. Find out, how were they? What their thoughts are, how the dance went. What are some things that they, because it helps share what they experienced to give you a better idea. Because you might find another DJ company that kind of does a lot of the similar things that you do and has a good reputation, where if you're in a bind, now all of a sudden you might have a DJ company that might be able to save you, as far as if you all of a sudden you've got a date booked and finding out that they screwed up on the date, and because we've kind of had that happen too,
Yeah.
where they're pretty certain that their date is this, and then finding out that things got switched, or so that way you've got someone that you can network with too. So it's always good to know who the local DJs are and knowing their background a little bit.
Yeah, that's for sure. Good stuff. Gang, we are just a few minutes away from our next segment. Thank you, Lori, for coming out
You're welcome.
and being part of it. We've got Bill Hermann coming up here in just a couple of moments.
It's Bill.
It's Bill, that's right. For those of you who do not know.
Did you pay him $1?
I did not pay him $1, but I'm hoping that there will be $1 involved with it, because he is good with that. And that's something, if you guys ever, you have to ask Bill about the dollar situation. So we're going to have Bill Hermann with us in just a couple of moments, but we are going to show a little love to our sponsors. As you've seen, that we've got ADJ is one of our big sponsors here at the Disc Jockey News. DJ Event Planner, Electro Voice. We've got a lot of great sponsors. You can go out to our website, and those ads and such where the banners are, those are the companies that support what we do.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you for our sponsors for being with us. And show them some love, because without their participation in these different things, these things would not happen. Whether it's the paper, whether it's website content, or the live shows. So please show them some love. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes with Bill Hermann.
Yes.
All right, we are going to be back here in just a moment with Bill Hermann. We're going to be connecting with him once again. You're seeing some of our sponsors with our shows. Please show them some love here. I'm just having to reset a little bit after having our things all set with. This is live TV that we're doing, or live internet web shows here. So again, show the sponsors some love. If you're wondering about the schedule for today, go out to djntv.com/mini sessions. Out there is the full list of all the presentations that will be going on today. You'll be able to go out there, see who's up next, and ask questions in the chat room. Click the YouTube and you can come in there. I'm manning, even during the recorded sessions, the chat room better than, because obviously when we're doing the live sessions, I can't be in the chat room as much. So please, if you've got questions, go to the YouTube, put the questions there. Yeah, it's just going to be a busy, busy day here today. So up next, we have got Bill Hermann. We'll be right back with Bill. Okay, we are going to connect with Bill Hermann next here, so just bear with me here. We're going to try to dial in and see if we can catch up with Bill.
It's my turn. It's me. Okay. Thought it was on later. Okay. Hi. Hi, guys. You got me away from my office and my studio, but that's cool. I'm Bill Hermann with the Entertainment Experience, and these mini sessions are great, aren't they? I'm really pleased and proud that John Young asked me to be a part of this and talk about a couple things. And I had a few ideas as to what I wanted to talk about. But while I was getting ready today for this and going through my day, something popped into my head because something happened to me. I'm going to tell you a little story. Two things, actually. Number one, trying to work out my flight stuff for Las Vegas, for the Mobile Beat Las Vegas show coming up in March. Something happened that my wife and I are coming in. We had to change our flight stuff. So because of me getting booked in Toronto at the CDJ show and conference on the Saturday and Sunday before Vegas, we called Sun Country to make a few changes. So here's what happened. My wife gives a call, and they get that online thing, which is really annoying, right? And so she stayed online, waiting, for the robot to come back every once in a while. You are 20 minutes from being dealt with. Well, after 20 minutes went by, she started to get a little annoyed. When 40 minutes went by, she was getting really angry. And then 2 hours later, she was still waiting, listening to the same 4 Johnny Cash songs in a loop over and over and over between this lady coming in and saying, you're very important to us. We'll be getting back to you in just a second. Ultimately, to change my ticket so that I could fly into Toronto before I come over to Las Vegas. Literally, that's all we had to do. It took 3 phone calls and being on hold for over 6.5 hours. And when it finally did it, they did it wrong. And then my wife had to call back because the person she finally got the chance to deal with wasn't listening. Didn't really care about what was going on. And then the next day, she calls our insurance company. I'm sure everybody's going through health insurance stuff right now. And we had to do some switching of that. Dealt with Health Partners here in Minneapolis. And that took another 4 phone calls, being on hold for over an hour and a half, only to get to the pharmacy to pick up medication for my kids and find out that they hadn't done a damn thing. They hadn't changed anything. They hadn't listened to anything. And once again, you get that feeling like they don't really give a crap, right? Well, that's really what I want to talk about. If there's one thing that has customers saying poor things about what we do or what anybody does, it's that lack of care, that lack of caring about the people that they're working for. I hear it from my clients on a regular basis about DJ companies they've talked to ahead of me that say they just didn't seem like they cared. I called them and they didn't call back. They emailed me back, which oftentimes isn't such a bad idea. But they sent them with a form letter. It was like, "Dear bride, hey, congratulations." So they get that, and then they call and want to set up an appointment, and then they get the runaround, or they don't get a call back, or they don't sound like they really care. All they care to do is try to get them to sign on the dotted line by deals, or we'll give you a special, or whatever that is. And they all got put off by that. And when they sit down with me, and when I sit across from them, and I spend almost the entire time asking them questions about who they are and what matters to them, and really listening to those things. First of all, I hear, "You're the only person that really called us back quickly," number one. Number two, you said you wanted to meet with us, which meant you cared more about our wedding than to make a sale. And then, when we get all done, the company that I'm up against for $500 and a $250 off if they sign up today are hiring me for a lot more than that. Why is that happening? Well, it's because people want to know that you care about them as much as they care about what they have going on. And that's a tough thing to wrap your brain around. I know, especially since, our job is to get to work. Our job is to get the sale. Without the sale, we can't go and do the gig. If we can't do the gig, we can't excite them and show them how great we are. But then, that is actually part of the problem. It goes back to one of the things that I talk about in the entertainment experience workshops, and that I've talked about in several seminars that I've done around the country. One of the first seminars I did was something called One Simple Word. And the simple word that you aren't using enough and that you need to use more, not only in your sales process, but in your planning process, in your performance, and in your life, is why. And when you're asking questions like why, you have to actually listen once you ask the question, first of all. And if you're asking the question, you want to know, because it's a pretty complex question. I'm getting married at a church and a 300-person reception. Why? Now, people are afraid to ask why. Why? Because they don't want their customers to think too much about whether or not they should hire a DJ or not. That's a weird way to go, but once again, it comes back to the why. And then the why I'm talking about is the why are you doing this? Are you doing it for you? Or are you doing it for your customer? Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for the bride and the groom? Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for the corporate client, for the birthday party, for the high school dance, for the grade school dance? Who are you actually serving when you do what you do? It's a hard question because oftentimes the answer isn't pretty. You're not usually doing this for them. Heck, we didn't get into DJing to be of service to people. I mean, come on. We got into DJing because it was fun for us. It was fun. You got usually you work in the bars, you drink for free, you meet girls, you get free food, and people treat you like a rock star because you're kind of a pretend rock star. You don't have to play actual music, with an instrument like what you're doing. You play CDs, you play MP3s, you play albums, So we don't have to work that hard to do what we do, and we get to do it for fun, for beer, for girls. That's why we got into it. That's why I got into it. And girls didn't like me. People didn't like me. I was weird, and I was spastic and ADHD, and I was into theater. So I was either going to be a musician or a DJ. DJ was easier than a musician. Musicians, they got to really practice. The practicing I did with my DJing didn't take me as long as whatever. I'm not trying to say that we as DJs are artists, because we are. But what I'm talking about specifically is one piece of our mentality of what we're doing, and the fact that we're not really doing this for our customers. We come in to do a rockin' party, and then hopefully us doing what we do to do our job fun, and we're having a great time doing it, and we know we can kill a party. Hopefully they're going to know that. We're going to see that. It doesn't always work out that way. Even if it's an awesome party, oftentimes your bride and groom or your client are not as excited about it as you are, because you weren't really catering to what they needed for whatever reason. Sometimes because, they don't know. What do you mean you want to hear Pink Floyd at your wedding? What are you, an idiot? Okay, I'm a DJ. I know better than to play Pink Floyd during a dance party, unless I've done a special mix. So I'm not going to do that. Or they want to stop things in the middle of a crazy party to be able to do something that they want. Oh, what are you doing? You're ruining everything. You don't know what you're doing.
Huh. It seems that Bill's camera froze up. I'll be darned. We'll have to find that and see what we can do to get him back. It's not the most appealing look there. So again, we're just getting things switched over, and Jimmy will be with us in just a couple of minutes. We are doing the mini sessions here from DJN TV. All right. Turn that off. Sorry about that, gang. Yeah, you were hearing the feedback from me doing a live monitor. Jimmy DePalma is with me. We're going to be talking a little bit about graphics and different things. For those of you who are watching the Bill Hermann thing, we're going to find out. Hopefully, we've got a recording of that somewhere that we can put up later, because these individual segments are going to be put up on DJNTV, the Insider area, so you can watch them individually, or they're going to stay up as YouTube videos also. I don't know what happened with Bill's segment. It just wasn't pretty. So that's going to give us it's going to give us a little bit more time to talk graphics, Jimmy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
and you've done a couple of things with graphics. Yeah, Bill Hermann broke the internet. Yes, he did. I'll have to figure out how he broke it. So
it figures.
So if you guys have gotten you noticed our thumbnails and such for our weekly DJ and TV shows, the cover of the paper and such, we've been having Jimmy do a lot of graphics work. He does a great job with that. And I asked if he'd come in and kind of talk to us a little bit about some of the thoughts and ideas and such. And being that I get to listen to Lori talk a lot about designing graphics for her local newspaper, I can actually ask some questions and such. So, Jimmy, where do we want to start?
Okay, let's see. Little history. All right, I've been a DJ. I've worked in graphic design, both of those since high school. All right, and after high school, I went into broadcast television and worked as a graphic designer in broadcast. And those are my three things that I've done for the most of my life. I mean, I've done other things, but it's not like I got into it last week.
Nice.
Yeah. So the first thing is for the average DJ, print materials. Print materials are crucial. You got to leave something behind when you go visit a venue, another vendor, or of course your bride and groom or other potential client. So first things first, business cards. All right. Let's see.
There we go.
That's my personal one. On my display, it looks backwards, but
Looks fine here.
Yeah, I know. It, messes with my brain. But here's the big thing, all right? Get the best card you can afford, all right? It pays in the end. I know they have this special and that special for $8, and they come out in a matte finish, and they look like you ran them off your printer, Yep. And it's like, they're not that expensive. You can get a glossy cardstock like that. I got 1,000 of these for $23.
Yeah.
Now, I like it. It's nice, heavy cardstock. It's not flimsy or anything. It's gloss coated. And the best thing I can say that get the best you can. Now, as far as your layout, in the past, and I float between it. Sometimes I put myself on. Sometimes I put another image on there. And design. It's worth getting your cards properly designed by somebody like myself or another graphic designer in your area. Look at what he's done. Try to get the best you can, because really, you can't beat a well-designed card. I mean, this is sometimes your first and last impression with people other than yourself. And some people don't even see you. I leave probably a good stack about that high with most of my vendors that I work with. And this could be the only thing that pulls them to actually giving you a call and setting up a consultation.
Jimmy, right. let's hold your card up.
Yeah.
There's a few things on there I wanted to point out to people as they're looking. So, first off, one thing I like, move it over, is that you have a couple on. He's using a couple on a card that are a happy couple, and it's not a picture of flowers. It's a couple dancing and basically looking positive. Secondly, is the script name. You can actually read that, and I think Jimmy, you probably picked that font because it is a legible font.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what stands out next? Okay, so we got the logo at the top, our eyes catch the couple, brings us down and around, and oh, look at there, in bold, how to contact with the website and the phone number. It's just a very well-designed, very good flow of the card. And yet, it has information, but not too much information. So, good job with that.
Yeah, no laundry list on there.
No. So, on the back side of the card, that's where you put the laundry list.
There you go.
I said that in sarcasm, but that's where you can put those types of things.
It's worth spending a couple extra bucks on the back. And one of the things, if you do want to save money, do the back like I did in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
All right, real simple black and white. You can, like I did, like a satin texture, and I'll tell you, even if you're not a big graphic designer or anything like that, you can find a lot of things. Google images, and then you put in wallpaper. All right, you type in wallpaper after it. So if you want silk background, and then you put wallpaper, it gives you a nice big, like 2,000 by 3,000 pixel resolution. So it blows up or shrinks down nicely. No postage stamp pieces there, like 200 by 200. My other hack is whenever you need like clip art or something like that, do yourself a favor and type in whatever you're looking for. So see, you want a turntable in there, if that's your thing. Put in like, if you want 1200, put in Techniques 1200.png. Guess what? At least 50% of them are going to come out on an alpha key background already cut out. So you don't have to sit there and cut pixel by pixel and, take the background out.
So what he's meaning by PNG, there's a couple of different ways you can have transparent backgrounds. And PNG is one way that it can be saved. EPS is another file way. These are different ways that the graphics are saved. TIFF, EPS, PNG, and sometimes PDFs can all have transparent background. PNG is the most common because that's what's used on websites. If you look at some of the things we've dropped in, it's because it's been a PNG file. Again, as Jimmy mentioned, you can cut all the background out, and most of the time someone else has already done it for you.
Done the work for you.
Like that.
Yeah, we really like that, especially when John gives me lots of work to do. All right. The other thing is your threefold. Your threefold flyer banner, your threefold
trifold,
trifold banner, well, not banner,
your literature, yes.
Literature, brochure. All right. That's another huge thing. If there's three things that you're going to do, I'd say, of course, the card, potentially postcards, or a 3-sided brochure. Now, the main thing is always get the best size image you can, the largest, the highest resolution. All right. Because I'm telling you, if you try to do print, which is in 300 dots per inch, versus the web stuff and video stuff, which is around 72 to 75, depending on what you're doing, it makes a difference when it goes to press, when it gets printed out, especially if you're doing banners. Like a lot of people go to wedding shows,
yes,
or they have a promotional banner at a freebie event, donated event that they're doing to promote. I wouldn't, the whole thing with the banners at the weddings, that was several decades ago.
Yeah.
But if you're giving away free services and it's at a public event, oh, absolutely, promote yourself. And I've done a few for maybe some people that are watching right now. I know one of the other presenters here today I've done a lot of work for, including a vehicle wrap. I've designed a vehicle wrap for their trailer.
Nice.
And yeah, it's good. Now a lot of people are down on vehicle wraps. Oh, I'm going to get broken in. I got a secret. All right. Get yourself magnetics. All right. You can take the magnetic off when you're done. You can put it on when you go to a show. And it's there. This way you can take it off. Now, if you want a big impact, you don't just want the little magnetic, here's what you do. Get your thing wrapped. Mm-hmm. Do whatever you want on it. Then buy from that same sign company magnetic vinyl that covers it in white. So if you have a white van, you come home from your gig, slap that vinyl up over your image. First of all, in a lot of places, some people live in better neighborhoods than others. There's compliance issues with your homeowner association.
That's true.
All right, you can't have big, boisterous stuff. They don't want it commercial looking. They live in a nice neighborhood with $500,000, $1 million house. All right, whatever. But you can't have that. So what you do is you can have your van out there, and it's covered with vinyl, blank white vinyl. And if your van's black, have them put black vinyl over the magnetic base, and just all you do is slap that up down there. The average crook's going down the street isn't going to notice. Is that a seam? What are they trying to cover? Nobody's going to notice it. They're driving by, and if it doesn't catch their eye, they're just going to keep on driving.
Yeah,
that's an idea I came up with a little while ago. Gobos. All right, everybody uses gobos now. Whether you're getting it from Chauvet or whatever, and ADJ, a lot of them have really upped the game on these gobos.
Gobo projectors, yeah.
Yeah. Now there's two ways of doing it. You can order one, or you can print one. All right. And there's a lot of designs out there that you can actually look at and try to mimic.
Sure.
It can be done. All right. And what you could do is go and print it. And if you're going to print it as dark and as deep as you can. And, that's the best setting, for on your printers. So, you don't want it to smear. You got to set it aside. You're not going to get all touchy and fingery on it. And it's got to set aside for a while. All right. So it dries properly. You don't smear it. You can also use laser. Laser does a really good under resolution. Then there's video gobos, which I love, because guess what? I do them. Because my background is in graphic design, but I've worked in broadcast. I'm used to doing animation.
Right.
Not necessarily a whole lot of 3D, but I do 3D effects. Mm-hmm. All right. Nobody's going to pay you enough to do a cell animation frame by frame mapping and all that, unless they have huge budget. All right.
Yeah, probably not in our world.
Yeah. So you make up a nice gobo design, Photoshop. You make it a PNG. You bring it into whatever editor you want, Adobe Premiere. Whatever tickles your fancy.
iMovie.
Really? No. Hey, if iMovie's what you can do, I don't know. Can you lay over PNGs in iMovie?
I'm not even sure. I haven't used iMovie in like 2 years.
Okay.
Now,
I've never used iMovie. I've been Final Cut for the last, ever since I went non-linear, I've been Final Cut. So before that, Beta SP, which don't confuse with Beta, but Beta SP was a broadcast form. But here's what you do: you make your animation. There's lots of freebies out there. If you're into, Adobe and doing, After Effects and all that, there's lots of pre-made stuff out there that you can add your logo or the gobo for your client or your client's logo. You don't have to necessarily do this for a wedding. It could be for a corporate. Mm-hmm. All right. It's a great way to make money. Yeah. It's an awesome way to make money. And it's not hard to do. It's not ridiculously hard.
And we're going to get into doing animated monograms and a few things like that with Jeremy Monterano a little bit later today, or actually tonight, because he is fabulous when it comes to that. I mean,
I've watched him.
he is good with
You
it.
know, every time you've had him on, and I've gotten lots of great ideas.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, I've gotten lots of great ideas from a lot of people that have been on Disc Jockey News.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been in the DJ business for 30 years. You never know it all. There's always somebody that's going to come up with something innovative.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, isn't it? It's always interesting. Even someone who hasn't been in it too long, they all of a sudden think of something different. It's like, oh yeah, I like that.
It's a fresh breath on things. You know me. I'm always trying to come up with some kind of creative hack or a new way of doing things, and it works out pretty good. But
Jimmy's the guy who's going to get a T-shirt that's made that says, "I'm the frugal DIY DJ."
Yeah.
And he'll sell them. He'll sell you those T-shirts. My gosh, it'll be great.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm currently working on a project. I got the wood here. Yeah, it's a little spacer rail. I got drills.
He's been working.
I've been working.
And that's between this little lower third thing you're seeing below. Where he's been doing all those graphics for us, so that's why they've been looking so good. But we've been keeping him very, very busy.
Well, I design a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And my artwork really helps me. And I did take a year of drafting.
Mm-hmm.
That helps too. So, overall, it's this. What I do blends into each other very, very well. They're very, the graphics, the video, broadcast, and all that, and it melds. I mean, it. Look at the money I save. I mean, come on. What it boils down to is, we're all trying to save money and keep our profits as high as possible. So do what you can,
Fun. Good stuff. Good stuff, Jimmy. We're gonna wrap up this segment. This is our second hour of our 11-hour day. Jimmy, thank you for being on. Gang, we'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes. Go to djntv.com/mini-sessions and go to video number 3 because we'll be on with that in just a couple of minutes. And I'm not even sure who's kicking off video number 3. Who's starting us off at that? We've got Matt Peterson who's going to be coming on here in just a little bit. So we'll catch you guys in just a little bit tonight. Thanks.